Okay. So hopefully this goes better than earlier. It's going to cover the same concepts, so it won't be quite as. And hopefully I won't get dropped off the stream because that was shitty. Um, I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to trickle in, and then I will start it up. Um, yeah, I should probably turn down the TV too because it's just going. I'm watching WrestleMania 5 just out of boredom on the free network there that we get with Peacock for being Comcast subscribers. It's kind of nice to have the network again for old stuff. Um, I absolutely hate the new UI for it. The interface is garbage. I miss the old one. I think they should work on that. Um, I will give people another minute or two. I think I'm going to start this up at about 5:10. Uh, but yeah, so we got about 2 more minutes, and then I'll start it up here. Um, and unlike last time, I actually went ahead and created this ahead of time, so it's not going to be quite as um, a chaotic clusterfuck as the last one where I was trying to do it by hand um, for the first time right then and there. Okay, one more minute. I'm going to give people one more minute. Um, I do have the new OBS, which has the chat like in the streaming window, so that's kind of nice. So please use if you're watching and in the Discord. Don't use the Discord. I'm gonna end up minimizing that, and I'll have this up so chat through the stream chat. That way I can see it. Because if you chat with me on Discord, I won't be able to see it this time because I finally figured out how to get the stream chat back on. Okay, so I am going to start now. Um, we're going to start from the very beginning, just uh, so that people can see what they would need to do to get a like an object class into the game from scratch, like they don't have another project they can attach it to. So we want to create a class library.NET framework in C Sharp. You can go ahead and hit next. When we set this up, we're going to want to do .NET Framework 2.0 because it's a Unity project, and Unity, most of all of the FirePro stuff is built in .NET Framework 2.0. So if you used anything higher than that, it is going to cause major issues. So do not. Just make sure that it is .NET Framework 2.0. Then we'll give this a name. We'll call this Casket Tutorial. And we'll go create. And we're going to get this here. Everything's good. I'm going to go ahead. I always do this every time. You rename this to Casket or whatever whatever you want. I just like to have it. That's your class, your public class here. That's going to be what you put into Arena Edit. So you want to have a name that is pretty representative of what your object is. So, and then we're going to need to add our references. We're going to go here, add references. I already have mine out here, so I'm just going to go ahead and check them off. But if you don't, you would just browse to your FirePro directory, your managed directory, and pick unityengine.dll. pwgrframework.dll, modpack.dll, and assembly.c#.dll. And then you hit OK, and that will do its thing. And now we've got all of these added. So we're going to come up here to the usings now, and we'll go using DG, using modpack, and using Unity Engine. There we go. So that gets us everything we need. The project's all set up. That's what you need to do to get any mod set up in FirePro. So then we're going to write a group description for this, for our casket. Name is casket. Group is casket. Description is adds a interactable casket to arena edit. And I am going to stick required as equals true on this particular group because it's going to be the only group in this entire mod. So this way nobody can forget to check it off. If they check it off on the left-hand side, they don't have to worry about anything on the right-hand side of the patcher. It'll always be checked. It's a nice way for single, if you aren't writing a modular sort of pack of mods to just say, all right, well, if you check off this DLL, this is going to be required, or this is, this is part of it. If you're writing a modular like suite of mods, you obviously wouldn't need this required equals true. So, and if you are going to do required equals false, just don't put the required in at all. It defaults to false, so it's kind of a pointless declaration unless you're going to set it to true. All right, so we've got that going. The first thing we need to do is set up the classes or the methods that any object class needs, which are, we need a public static void use L, which is going to take a player and a game object, and then we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to paste it in 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we're going to change the names. We have use M, use H, trigger, and collide. Alright, so now that should be all of the basically all of the things that we need for the arena edit framework to work fine. Every arena edit object DLL that you're going to make is going to require those 5 methods to be included in them. So definitely, familiarize yourself with that so you don't forget any of them, because they're required if this is what you want to do. The next thing we need to do is, because we're using a new DLL, what we need to do is create a hook somewhere in the game code so that the game actually loads this DLL. Otherwise, it will not load it, and that's not very helpful. So we're going to go ahead and create a hook. We're going to go a public static void load casket object, and it doesn't need any arguments, and we're just going to say l.d casket interactivity class loaded. There we go. That's really all we need to do there. I'm going to hook it on to the resident object, which is the object that everything else is connected to. So we're going to go hook target class equals resident obj, target method equals awake, injection location equals int.maxValue. We just need it at the end. Inject direction equals before, inject flags equals none, and group equals casket. There we go. And one thing that we're going to want to add, since that resident object gets, that awake thing is called every time a scene switches, we're going to want a way to say, all right, we've already loaded this. So we're going to put just a private static bool enabled equals false. And we'll come down here and we'll go if not enabled, then go ahead and report that it's loaded, and then set enabled to true. That way it only reports it once at the very start of the game, and then after that it's not ever reported again, and that's going to be helpful for us. And now what we need to do is decide what we want to do. Like, do we want to set it up on all of the use things? Do we want to set it up on just one particular thing? I set it up so that you have to hit the light attack button to trigger closing the casket. You can do whatever you want. If you want to copy this across all 3 buttons, you could do that. Yeah, so it's up to you. I want a button push to close the casket, though. I don't want it to just be on the trigger or on the collide. So what we're going to do is put it at least on the light attack, and then if you want it on the other attacks, you could just copy and paste, because it's going to be the exact same code. Or you could write your own method like this, and just go private static void close lid. And that's probably what we'll do. We'll do that. That'll be nice and easy. And then you can just put it in any of the ones that you want. And this is going to take a player, plobj, and a game object, obj. So we're just going to pass in the player object and the game object from our thingies. We'll go with close lid. Oop. And we'll pass in plobj and obj. There we go. And now we'll just cut and paste that into all 3 of these. And there we go. Now we can start working on close lid and what we want it to do. So the first thing we need to do is determine, since this will only fire when the when the player is in the bounds of the object, so we don't actually need to test if he's touching it. We need to test if his target, if his opponent is touching it. So what we need to do is get the target, the player's target. So what we'll do is we'll set up a player. We'll call him target equals playerman.inst.getPLOBJ, and we'll do plobj.targetPlayerIndex, and this will get the target player of whoever is pressing the button on the object. And we'll say if not target. So if there is no target, if it doesn't exist, if it's null, return. And then the mod pack has a wonderful utility method called colliding. It's utility.colliding, and it'll take a target like player and an object and then a set of other conditions, and it will test if all of those things are true and the player that you passed in is actually touching the object or colliding with the object. So we're going to use that. So we'll go if not utility dot colliding, and we want target object. And then here's one of the nice things about you can pass in other, like a series of other expressions into colliding. So let's say we want it to only return true if the target is face up or face down. So we go target.state equals pl pl state num dot down face down, or target.state equals pl state num face up. So that will say if that isn't going to return true, then we just return, because they are either not touching the object or they are not face up or face down. And so we don't want to continue to try to close the lid. The next thing we need to do is check if the match is over for some reason, like maybe somebody got injured or KO'd or criticaled or whatever. So we need to check for a match main.inst. So if match main.inst equals null, return. And if match main.inst.isEndMatch, or isMatchEnd, return. So this way they can't trigger it if the match is already over, because that can cause weird screwy things in the result screen. So there we go. And then we need to get the referee object. So we go referee, refe, equals refereeman.inst.getRefereeObject. And that's how you get the referee for the match. It's pretty simple. And then we're going to want to make sure that the referee exists, just in case something screwy is going on. If not referee, return. You can add error messages to all of these before all of the returns, saying referee not found, L.D, referee not found, L.D, match main not found, L.D, player not colliding or not down, debugging text. If you want to, I recommend not doing it for things like the colliding, because that's going to be a frequent occurrence, or a more frequent occurrence, that they're not a collide, and it's not really an error. But if it can't find the referee, for instance, or the match main, then those are errors, and you might want to catch those. Or it can't find the player, the target, things like that are obviously errors, and you're going to want to catch those. But so it's up to you whether you want to add the debugging text there. I would, if you were going to if you're going to release it, I would add them. It's going to make your life easier when people have trouble. That way you'll at least know where it's erroring out, or whatever, The next thing we need to do is get the object, the game objects renderer. In this case, it's going to be the caskets renderer. So we go renderer, rend, equals obj dot, not set active, dot get components, get component in children, and in between these little greater than, less than symbols, we want to put in the word renderer again, and then make it a method. There we go. And if not rend, return. There's another one that you can put a debug log in if you wanted to, because if it can't find the renderer of the object you're interacting with, something has gone wrong, because that object should obviously have a renderer in order to be displayed on screen. So, and then what we're going to want to do is get the closed casket textures. And so if we go out here and I go into my modpack data arena edit textures, you'll see that I have a casket and a casket closed. So you're gonna want these. Wallywood posted them in the custom textures section on Discord, and I am actually going to upload them to the mod programming Discord right now. So they'll be in there if you're following along. Okay, so yeah, they should be in the mod programming channel of the Discord right now. View asked, are all 5 methods required even if you're using a portion? They're not all required. If it can't find one, it'll just ignore it or pretend like whatever happened didn't happen, essentially. So if you don't include it, it just means that you can't. It won't trigger whatever interaction you're trying, or it would be called for. Just won't have any effect. So no, they're not all required. I just include them all. I just included them all in this one just cause. Um, but yeah, if you don't include them, they just won't fire. Um, the one exception for that is if you set something to be collidable and don't include a custom colliding one, it will automatically play the wall crash collision, because why would you be setting it to be collidable if there is no way to handle that? But otherwise, it will ignore whatever. So, yeah, if you don't want to make it interactable, you don't need to include the use LMH and trigger. And if you don't make it collidable, you don't need to include trigger or collide. So that's how it works basically. Okay, so back to the mod here. So what we're going to need after we do the we've got the renderer, we're going to need to load the closed casket texture, because presumably you are starting with an open casket. When you add the casket to Arena Edit, you're going to add the open casket, I'm assuming. And that way when you when you interact with it, it will close it. Instead of having to open it, interact with it to open it, then get the guy in it, and then close it, which you could do. I mean, it's not a difficult thing to do necessarily. You'd really probably have to set up some variables in here, saying that the casket starts closed or whatever, and then tracking the status of the casket. I'm obviously not going to do that because it's just I'm going for simple, quick, and dirty. You guys can polish this and release it to the community if you want. I'm sure a lot of you know the deal with the tutorials. I won't release them ever. It's up to you guys to build them and release them to the community. You don't need to give me any credit. I don't give a shit. You can take all of the glory. It's all yours. You can polish it up as much as you want. I'm happy to answer questions and help you with polishing in the mod programming channel, but for the sake of the tutorial, I tend to keep it pretty simple. Alright, so now we need the texture 2D, and we're going to call this closed casket equals utility dot load texture, and then you just need to pass in the string. This has existed forever, and both myself and a lot of other mod authors still do the old way where they type out like about 4 or 5 steps to load a texture, but it's totally not necessary. This utility.load texture has existed for probably 6 or 9 months now. We just never use it. So I'm going to go mod pack data, arena edit, textures, and then casket closed.png is what I called mine. So that's going to load that texture 2D, and basically what we're going to want to do now is set up a for each loop. We're going to go through all of the materials in the renderer. So for each material, M in rend.materials. And we're going to go m.mainTexture equals closed casket. There we go. And that's going to set that up all nice and good to go, so that we have that will swap the texture for you so that the casket will get closed. And then what we need to do is end the match, because presumably if you've got a casket match, once somebody's been put in the casket and the match is and the casket's been closed, then you're basically have finished the match. So what I'm going to do there is I am going to cut and paste what I have, and then I will explain where I got it from, because only a very small amount of this is my own code. And so I'm going to cut and paste, and then I'll go through it, and I'll tell you where I found it, and you can kind of go from there. So you'll see here, casket win is something that I need to add up here. That's private static bool casket win equals false. And there we go. Now it's set. Now there we got. So if you look in here, I went down to the, where is it? Referee, I believe that it is finish check, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, here it is, the KO check. So I literally just copy and pasted all of this right here. Everything inside the brackets, this.refi count equals 1. And then I got rid of this because it's unnecessary. Because we're not doing a... This will never happen in a Battle Royale match. I mean, it can, but you're going to end up with problems, so don't allow it to. This code does not make any check for that. So that's something that when you polish and release, you're going to want to do. Because you're going to end up with some real fucked up results if you don't disable this in Battle Royals, or you're going to have to modify things to work in Battle Royals. So anyway, so yeah, I just cut and pasted all of this stuff right into my code, and then made a couple of adjustments to it. Let me bring it back up and I'll show you the adjustments. So anywhere where you got this, you're going to need to change to where you got the referee. I called mine REFE. So you're going to need to do a find and replace, where you replace this dot with refi dot, or whatever you called your referee object. You are going to need to get this. So in the basic code, this is going to be this animation table. Ref anim table is going to make a call to a private static array in the referee class. We're going to need to get that. So you're going to have to set up a basic skill-enum array called whatever you want, really. And then use a modpack.get field. And for this one, you just pass in your referee object, the name ref ANMTBL, and then it is a static field, so your final variable in get field should be true. And then it will go ahead and just get that static thing, and you then in the next line here, you'll notice that I call our local variable instead of referee dot ref anim table. So you'll need to change that. I added a thing here because when we set up the match in a second, when I do that code to initialize your casket match, you're going to set it to an escape only match, which you can't win because there's no cage. So basically what's going to end up happening is it will disallow submissions and pinfalls, which is exactly what you want for a casket match, but we do need to switch it back. So what we need to do is go ahead and switch it back to a 3-count match, just a normal match. So we'll do the globalwork.inst.match setting, victorynum.count3 right here. So that's what we're going to do. I just realized that I highlighted on the wrong window, so you couldn't see any of that. Here's that get field call right here, where we just set it as a local variable, and then I called the local variable here instead of referee dot, which is what it would be calling when you cut and paste. Here in the sentence lose, it's going to target the referees. If you just do the find and replace this will actually be refe.targetPlayerIndex. You do not want that. You want the target.playerIndex, which is the guy who got stuffed into the casket. So you'll need to change that. Then you will need to set him so that he is no longer visible. Otherwise, he will just kind of float on top of the casket, which is, I'm assuming, not what you want. You could probably call your own animations for actually stuffing him into the casket. I'm not doing that. Basically, what I'm doing is that if he is in a prone position or a supine position within the bounds of the casket, he counts as in the casket, even though for the purposes of layering, he's probably going to be in front of the casket. But this just turns him off, so it looks like he's in the casket when the lid gets shut. You cannot use set sleep because it confuses the results screen, so you actually have to set the game objects as active. So you'd call target.gameObject.setActiveFalse and target.shadow.setActiveFalse, and that will turn off his shadow and his rendering. So he'll basically be invisible, but he will still exist to the game code, if that makes sense. The next thing that I did was I went ahead and, for some reason, the code didn't quite set the winner correctly, so I just did it manually here. And to do that, you just get a player match result. You can call it whatever you want. And to do that, you get the match evaluation.inst.pl result at the index of playerObject.plIDX. This will exist already in match evaluation. This is just kind of what it uses to evaluate each player throughout the match. It tracks all kinds of stuff. If you're unfamiliar with them, they're kind of cool. I recommend that you go check them out just to see what other kinds of things you can track if you wanted to. But anyway, the result position is the only variable in here that we care about for this particular one, and we're going to set that to the winner, because the guy who triggered the casket to close is the winner, obviously. And then you set casket win equals true, and that's the variable we added up here. So casket win, and you'll see why we did that in a second, because we've got a couple more things to do here. One thing that we do need to do is we need to go ahead and set this up so that it automatically detects that you're trying to run a casket match, and sets the victory conditions to only escape. So to do that, what we're going to want to do is create a new public static void. We're going to say check for casket. And what you're going to want to do here is set the casket win equals false so that it's always false at the start of the match. It should be anyway, but just in case something weird happens, you can set it to false. And then go if modpack.modpack.contains_value. And then we're going to search for whatever you called your class. In our case, it's casket. But let's say you called your class casket match instead of casket. You would type in casket match there. And so that's going to say if there is an object using this class as its interactive class, then go ahead and do these things. And so then we're going to want to go globalwork.inst.matchSetting.victory condition equals victory condition enum, I can't type, only escape. And then if you wanted to include a little debug text there that says it found a casket, then that's fine, you can do that. Totally not necessary. You may want to do that when you're testing just to be sure that it's finding the casket for you. But again, I don't recommend sticking a whole bunch of debugging text into something that you're going to release. So if you do put it in there, get rid of it before you release it to the public. Because it will slow down it just slows things down. It's not worth keeping around if you don't need it. So like once you know that it's detecting the caskets fine, you can go ahead and get rid of it. And then we need our hook for this because we're going to hook it right into init match. So we're going to write a hook. So we go hook, and then we put the two things, or two parentheses. We go target class equals match main. Target method equals init match. Inject location equals 0. Inject direction equals before. Inject flags equals none. And group equals casket. There we go. So that's just going to set it up so that if it detects the casket match, it's going to change it to only escape. Keep in mind, if you're trying to idiot-proof this, you're going to need probably more than this. You're going to have to check some of the... You're basically going to have to make sure that it's not... that the user isn't trying to interact with any of the mod pack form match type radio buttons, which are all public. You probably want to have it set so that it just checks that to 0 maybe, or what is it, radio button 1 I think is normal match. I'd have to look for you. Let me look for you because that'll be helpful for you to know. Mod pack, here we go. And then we want mod pack form. It's going to load this up. We'll go to match. And we'll hit normal. And what is this? Radio button 1. So what you're probably going to want to do is modpackform.instance.radiobutton1.checked equals true. So here, let's throw that in. Just modpackform.instance.radiobutton1. Oh, you want that here. Checked equals true. Why is that not? Why is it flipping out now? This should be public. It is public indeed. Radio button 1. Okay. Instance.radiobutton1.checked equals true. Oh. Okay. So I don't have windows.systems.forms referenced here, and since we're referencing a Windows form object, we're going to have to do that. So you come back up here to assembly, and there'll be system.windows.forms. Just go ahead and check it off. Boom, there you go. That'll take care of that. Yeah, since we're not adding any forms to this, it didn't automatically add that to our project. So that's why it flipped out there. But there you go. So now it will turn it back into a normal match and escape. That may or may not work depending on where that injects. If this injects before the mod pack thing, then you may actually get some other stuff going on. So what we might want to do is come up here to properties and change the assembly name to something that's definitely going to load after the mod pack, like Z casket tutorial. I use Z for Zilla. You can use whatever as long as it comes after mod pack. So you could use anything after mod pack alphabetically is going to work. I don't recommend using Z because then you might clash with some of my extra stuff. But yeah, you can find your own prefix, basically. But now that will inject after the mod pack, and it will inject at the 0 location, so it will inject above any mod pack stuff. So there we go. And then the other thing we're going to need to do is, since if you look up here, we set the victory type, the match result type, to KO. So we want to change any instances of the word KO in our text to something else. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to go public static void change KO text. And we're going to get ref string text. You need the ref there because we want the reference to the text, not like a copy of its value. So we want the actual text that's being passed into this other method that we're going to hook onto. So we're going to write a hook here, and we're going to go target class equals menu result. And this is the results menu, as you might have guessed from the name. And we're going to hook target method equals set finish skill. And that's that method sets the text that displays in that little box that tells you what the finish was and how long the match went and all of that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna hook that method. We're gonna go inject location equals inject location equals 0. Inject direction equals before. Inject flags. This one is going to be pass parameters by reference. And the group is going to be casket. And there we go. And so now that will take this. If we go in here and look at menu dot result or menu underscore result, let's result, and we go to set finish text here, you'll see that it passes in a string. That's what we're capturing, and we want this reference instead of this value because we're actually going to change the value. And if we changed it without getting the reference, it wouldn't. Anything out here wouldn't actually change. It would only change the value within our method, which is not what we want. We want to change the value in the original method. So that's why we need that. And then we check for the if casket win, because we don't need to change anything if that casket win is false. And then text equals text dot replace KO with the periods with opponent stuffed into casket. You can call it whatever you want. I called it opponent stuffed into casket. That worked for me. It's hard to get the opponent's name or anything like that, so that's why I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do the generic opponent stuffed into casket. And then we'll go ahead and set the casket win to false, and there we go. So we've done that. I believe that that's just about everything that we need to do. So we can go ahead and pull out some of the stuff that we are not using. We are not going to be using trigger. We are not going to be using collide. So we can just go ahead and get rid of those. And there we go. We've got this going on. This should do everything we need it to do. Of course, you build it from here and get it going. But I already have my original one patched in, which is pretty much exactly the same. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll load the game up. Sorry, I'm just now checking the chat. It's hard to see the chat and my original code, which I was using to kind of guide the thing at the same time. Vue is goddamming me. What texture information? Just the utility.load texture? Are you damning me for not making that more, or making people aware of that earlier? Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I don't use it myself a lot of the time, and I don't know why. It's just I forgot about it. I guess I added it when we were doing a lot of texture work, like when we were loading textures for various things, and I added it because I was like, oh, this will be nice to have, and then just kind of forgot about it. So it's good to have. Let's see. I need to go here. I have already added a find form. If we go to my Kurikuan Hall and my PNCW, I've already added um, my casket. Um, I did not make sure this is in an awkward spot. It's scaled incorrectly. It's awful. All I care about, and you can fuck with that all you want and release it as a preset. Mine looks gross. You'll see it in a second. But you need to make sure that the transparent is set and that interactive is set, and that it is pulling from the casket class. Anything else is, you can set up the scaling, the positioning, all of that stuff all you want on your own. But yeah, for this one, you definitely just want to make sure that it's interactive and pulling from casket. So I'm going to go ahead and pick two guys that do not have entrance attire, so that I don't have to deal with that. I'm going to go ahead and set the Fire Pro window to be what we're looking at. Then I'm going to go ahead and I am player 1, so we're going to go ahead and grab this. I think I just... There we go. Let's do that. I'm going to set the comm level to 1 to make this easier to work with. Throw him out of the ring while he's failing out. I'm going to turn off the AI. So you can see the casket right over here. It is horribly elongated and just, it looks gross. We're just going to throw him up into here. Then we're going to go ahead and body slam him down. We're going to... Oh, he didn't stay down long enough for me to trigger it. Now he's not in it, so we'll go here. We'll body slam him. That might be good enough. No, that is not good enough. Oh, come on now. That's not going to work either, because that's where he just was, literally. So now that he's up there, we'll body slam him. That should be good enough. Oh, what is going on here? There we go. Anyway, see, the casket closed, match is over. I've won. And you go out here, and it has me as the winner with the opponent stuffed into casket. So, mod works. The whatchamacallit, like the positioning is a little bit finicky because, I mean, really what you've got is a 3D object rendering a 2D texture, and it's not ever going to be quite perfect, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's pretty much how that works. Like I said, there's quite a bit of polishing that you should probably do for, if you're going to release that to the public. But, I mean, it's just cool that something like that works in FirePro, which is something that I don't think any of us ever really expected or thought about. 2 or 3 years ago, it was one of those things where we were like, yeah, that'll never happen. But you could see that with some custom animations, and some custom objects and that kind of thing, and judicious use of the interactivity classes, you could probably make a ladder. You could do a ladder match. The ladder might you might not be able to knock the ladder over and reposition it and all that kind of stuff because that might be a little more than Fire Pro could handle. But you could probably have a static ladder in the middle of the ring that you could whip somebody into and climb and etc. if you wanted to. There's lots of stuff that you could do with this sort of thing. Um, I just wanted to do a tutorial about something useful like that casket match because Wallywood was cool and put that casket up there, and I was like, well, shit, I could do a tutorial on how to make that into something useful. And like I said, my implementation of the actual casket, it looked like crap. It was all stretched out. It was gross. If you're going to release something to the community, you're probably going to put more effort into making that look better than I did, um, which is fine. This is just supposed to be a quick and dirty tutorial thing. And so hopefully you get the general gist of it. And it's not too difficult for people to understand. I don't think it is, but some folks might, have more questions, which is fine. Um, Definitely feel free to message me in mod programming on the Discord. I'll hang out here and answer some questions if anybody's got them. I don't know how many people are in here today or right now, but um, if you've got questions, I'll answer them. I don't have anything else to be doing right now, but if nobody's got any, then we can always take care of it in the Discord. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was going for a general tutorial for the arena edit. That was kind of my goal. Um, because the one I did this morning, I lost connectivity in the middle of the tutorial, and so it kind of went to shit. And then I reloaded it. And I tried to get back to where I was at, but nobody answered me when I asked them where it went down. So I just kind of got frustrated and gave up. I'm not going to be putting those over onto YouTube, but this one I'm definitely going to transfer over to YouTube because I didn't drop any frames or get disconnected or whatever. So, um, you know, this is a much better YouTube candidate for showing off the interactive classes than the last one was. Plus, the last one wasn't really that practical. I had people pulling weapons out of stairs. That's not like a great tutorial. It isn't practical. No one is going to do that and then release that. So there is not a lot of incentive for somebody to do that at all. But I think with this one, you know, it's kind of a cool concept. It's an additional match. Um, so people could definitely, release this one and people would be, they'd get some praise from other folks who just use it. And I think that makes for a better tutorial than just um, doing random shit just to show how shit is done. So my ESPN Plus is telling me that some sports thing is going on. But yeah, so yeah, it definitely, I think that was a more solid tutorial than the previous one. And again, like I said, if you have any other questions, I will be in the Discord off and on all night. I'm getting the mod pack ready for a general release. I want to try to do it before April 1st so that people don't think that Arena Edit is some kind of April Fool's joke or something. Um, but, other than that, I have no solid idea of when it's going to happen. But that's pretty much what I've been doing now that I'm back up and running on the new computer. And I took a little bit of a break because of just, I needed a little bit of a break. And so I took one. But yeah, so hopefully sometime before April, this will be a public thing in the release version, and everyone will be able to use it. So Anywho, it seems like that's pretty much the end of this. I don't have anything else to say. So I'm going to let this one go, and I will be in the Discord, so you can go in there and ask me questions if you still have some. Alrighty then.